On this episode of Screen Geeks, we're going to talk about The Bad Batch. Woo! Yes, hello everybody, and welcome to Screen Geeks, the weekly live talk show where we talk about all things geeky that are on TVs and screens. Presented by this lovely channel, Geek Dad Life. Ralph, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Weekly is very
it hasn't been weekly much of late.
But yeah. I mean, the good reasons. I mean, last week, happy anniversary.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
To you and Colleen. I feel like that when you said that, I was like, that's good enough reason to not do a show. Congratulations. 10 years? No.
10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I can't believe we made it that long, to be honest. I was like, maybe 5.
It's flown by. That was a good day.
It was a great day. You were there.
I was there.
It was one of those good weddings that it was fun. It was a lot of fun. A lot of stories from that night from a lot of different angles, which is when you know you got a good party coming together.
Yeah.
But excited to be back here tonight with you, Ralph, because the Star Wars holiday that you don't celebrate happened this week, May the 4th. And
I did not celebrate it.
The Bad Batch dropped. New series, the latest in the long lineage of animated shows from Dave Filoni. So excited to talk about the first extra long movie length first episode of The Bad Batch, and another one's coming tomorrow, so it's just kind of like back to back to back, which is really cool. So excited about that. Jay Griffiths is here. Clone Wars are some awfully big shoes to fit into. Hope and excitement are high, though. Yes, the title I gave to this, can Bad Batch fill Clone Wars big shoes? All right. And Todd Smith is here. I haven't watched much Clone Wars yet, but I really like the Bad Batch cartoon. I did my time, 10 years of it in marriage. Congrats. Thanks, Jay. All right. So you, a lot of groaning on your side when it comes to Clone Wars. Are you still kind of being meh about Clone Wars?
Well, I've watched all of Clone Wars. And there's definitely certain storylines that I like more than others. Overall, I'm not super into it.
Yeah.
I really like Rebels. Really like Rebels. And there's something about Clone Wars I just can't get into.
It's weird. It's funny that you like Rebels. You love Star Wars.
Right.
But something about Clone Wars doesn't connect to you.
I think one of the things is I grew up I was born in 1977. So for me, Star Wars was always a group of 4 or 5 people, couple droids, a monster, whatever, going out on an adventure.
Yeah.
And the prequels don't really do that much. You spend most of the time dealing with the situations. And Obi-Wan's kind of separated from Anakin a lot. And so you don't really get that in the prequels. And you don't get that in Clone Wars. You get that in Rebels. You have the team that, the Ghost. You have the people that, the Kanan and Ezra and Hera, all those guys. So I like that kind of Star Wars, a tight-knit group going out on an adventure. They may butt heads, they may have different ideals, but it's fun to watch them interact and sort of save the day.
Yeah.
And Clone Wars really doesn't have that. It doesn't follow one unit.
No.
So what's great about, what I like about some of the stories is that you do have these people going off into different adventures. I like the Echo story in Clone Wars. I think that's an interesting take on Order 66 when he was getting he had some sort of tumor in his brain that was activating his Order 66. I thought that was intriguing. I like stuff like that. I don't care about Kit Fisto going off and, trying to bring the Aqualesh and the Quarren together or whatever, or the Moncal. I just don't, I don't care about that. I tend to gravitate towards Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan going out on a mission to save the day.
Yeah.
So Clone Wars was never really my thing, even though there's definitely some stuff. Really liked Rebels. Really liked Bad Batch.
Okay, that's that. So I wanted to get to that. So first, I want to say, Scott, do you hate Revenge of the Sixth? Yes, it is Revenge of the Sixth today.
You just abandoned the fact that it's the month of May, which is the pun, and just decided Revenge of the Sith could be literally any month.
But we're doing it today, all right, Ralph? Okay, so so yeah, I was good. So not the biggest Clone Wars fan, but but Bad Batch is kind of doing the thing where a group of people are having adventures together. Right.
And I didn't care for the Bad Batch episodes of Clone Wars.
Which, yeah, exactly. I remember that. I really liked those episodes.
It's I mean, obviously this is going to feel like the characters are more fleshed out. But there's just something about them sticking characters, and I think I like this in Rebels too. And the episodes of Clone Wars I mentioned is tell me where we're at timeline wise. I fully understand the ramifications of what's happening during this moment in time and how this changes their story. So the fact that this takes place during episode 3 and Order 66 and the Rise of the Empire, totally makes the characters way more interesting, because not only are they sort of outside of your normal stormtroopers and clones, now they're even outside of that. They're completely on their own, lost in the galaxy, which I really, really like. So it really kind of forces them to be like this family unit that comes together, and they're going to try to survive, I guess. We don't really know what their main goal is other than to survive in this galaxy. And it's between episode 3 and episode 4, there's 20 years to play with in there.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what's nice also is they're taking Tarkin, and they're taking I always call them Kaminoans, but they call them something. How do they pronounce
Kaminoans?
Kaminoans. Yeah. Anyway, but I like that they're taking stuff from the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy and sort of fusing them together. Seeing Tarkin, I know Tarkin was in episode 3, but seeing Tarkin walk hand in hand with the Kaminoans, I'm just going to say it that way.
He was in some of the Clone Wars episodes too. He was around.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Or was it? Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe he was around Clone Wars. Yeah. Rebels too, but yeah.
I think he showed up in the last season as well.
Yeah.
But I like that. I like that. It's not like, oh, we didn't have any sort of Obi-Wan cameo. We didn't have Mace Windu cameo. It wasn't the only real sort of character we got was Tarkin and the Kaminoans. And then you get Saw Gerrera.
And Saw Gerrera,
yeah. Caleb Doom. It took me a while to remember that.
Yeah, I kind of it took me a moment. I was like, oh, because I didn't remember his Jedi's name off the top of my head. I did look it up. It's Depa Balaba. But I knew her face generally, because there was both of them kind of showed up very briefly in a holocron or whatever. Not Hollywood, Hollywood. Right. In, the final season of Clone Wars. So it took a second. I was like, oh, and then once I heard Freddie Prinze Jr.'s voice, I was like, oh,
right. Stevie said, why is that boy talking like a man? And I'm like, that sounds like Freddie Prinze Jr. And I looked it up because I'm like, and I'm pretty sure he went by a different name other than Kanan, and I didn't remember that name, so I looked it up. I'm like, oh yeah, of course it's him. But I liked it was a great sort of framing device. Like it set up the story of where the Bad Batch were during Order 66, but also gave you a peek into the backstory of Rebels. So it's nice that between Clone Wars and Rebels, there's a huge gap. So I like that it's sort of bridged that gap without like super hitting you over the head with it.
Exactly. Yep. And it kind of it subtly sets that, okay, this story is going to maybe fill in that space that exists between the end of the Clone Wars and Rebels.
This is the perfect way to do it, because the team doesn't have a set goal. They're not looking for a specific place to go, which allows them to sort of bounce around the universe or the galaxy and maybe start filling in some of these gaps. One of the gaps I think that we saw filled in this episode was that the dead Jedi were being taken to Kamino, which is huge if you watch Mandalorian, because we know that Grogu is a clone of a Jedi, and so or has like a high midichlorian count, and we know it's Dr. Pershing is part of Kamino. And
hold on. But wasn't I thought Grogu was alive during?
Right. He was born around the same time as Anakin in episode 1.
Exactly.
But that shows you the kind of the process of what they're doing there.
Sure.
It shows you that they are collecting Jedi. So they might have been doing this for a while. Who knows if they were working with General Grievous? Because Darth Tyrannus, I believe, was Sifo-Dyas. I'm not sure. But we know that General Grievous killed Jedi and took their lightsabers. The bodies probably went to Kamino. So they've probably been doing this for a while.
So I thought it was they were taking, because there's that body and the lightsaber fell. I thought they were taking it out away from Kamino, but maybe I just saw that wrong. So they were taking the dead bodies in?
I'm assuming.
Okay.
Because they were walking, I feel like they were walking the same direction that the Bad Batch did when they came into the thing.
Yeah.
Either way, Kamino has dead Jedi body.
Well, that, and it's a good point to bring up the Mandalorian, because that I can't remember his name, but the guy that was like experimenting on Grogu, taking the blood samples, Hershey, he had the Kamino, symbols or whatever. So it can explore, because clearly Kamino is going to be a big part of this story, because there's this younger Omega character, bit of mystery around her. But as far as we know, she is a clone, not unlike the rest of the Bad Batch, where she's made differently.
Jedi cells?
Because she knew
like,
what what's the sharpshooter's name? Kill switch or something.
Crosshair.
Thank you. Crosshair knew what he was going to do, and then she took out. she hit that shot. So clearly, there's some midichlorian manipulation going on there with her.
Right.
Cool.
So I think that's a lot of fun. I think we can also start to fill in the gaps with Emperor Palpatine's, in the Rise of Skywalker. Start filling in those gaps on how, Dominic Monaghan said in Rise of Skywalker, Palpatine's a clone, or they're doing cloning stuff. So like between the Mandalorian and this, they're really kind of fine tuning the whole idea of the impact of the clones, which is great, because now it brings it sort of elevates the prequels for me. All this stuff elevates the prequels. I don't know if it elevates Clone Wars. I mean, I like the stories, but it's just not. It's not something that I find. It doesn't really grab me. But so far, this episode really grabbed me, especially the first half. The second half, where they go off and meet Saw Gerrera and stuff, and Tarkin sends them on a mission, was okay. But I really liked the first half. It really sort of explored the characters and their dynamic and how they function as a team.
Agreed.
And I really like sort of Crosshair's arc. He no, I really liked how that turned out.
I agree. Because I'm with you. The Saw Gerrera part in the middle, like, one, it was cool to see him. I guess see the kind of the beginnings, but they kind of already did that with Saw Gerrera and Clone Wars. And so he it's a bit of a repeat kind of story a little bit.
Yeah.
But it made sense to kind of drive the Bad Batch's story along. But I'm with you. I really like the beginning and then the end, like them back on and escaping, and then the kind of turning of Crosshairs.
Right. I like the sort of where they have Crosshair on the table and they're messing with his brain so that he becomes more subservient to them. And then at the end, we see him what almost looks like a proto Death Trooper outfit. Now, what's fun is Crosshair seems like a taller, skinnier version of a stormtrooper. Like his body looks different.
Sure.
Then later in Rogue One, when we see the Death Troopers, they're all thin and tall. So it's almost like they're sort of bridging that gap too. Like they don't really explain the Death Troopers in Rogue One. They just kind of appear. But it looks like those Death Troopers, since they only followed Krennic, maybe Death Troopers also follow Tarkin.
Yeah, that'd be interesting because the first episode's setting up essentially how Tarkin or how they shifted from clones to, enlisted people. And it'd be interesting if the Death Troopers were still maybe clones or clones of Crosshairs or something like that.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. And there's enough time. I think they have that accelerated growth rate. So we're still, this takes place during episode 3. So it's still about at least 19 years before we get to Rogue One. So timeline fits, they can start cloning Crosshair and make him the Death Troopers from Rogue One.
Absolutely. And they're still cloning too, because I think that it kind of answers that question as well. Where was it shut off immediately? But no, if you go there, they're still cloning clones.
Also, it's another thing that you can sort of fill in the gaps is Tarkin doesn't like clones. So when you see the stormtroopers on the Death Star, those could all be recruits. They don't have the accent that the clones do. The Jango Fett accent. So it could be Tarkin like deciding, no, I don't want clones. So there's also still recruiting and there's also still clones out there. But I feel like Tarkin really wants to surround himself with recruits, which is like with one line where it says Tarkin doesn't care for clones. It totally sort of makes that make sense. That like anybody asking in Star Wars, are those still clones? The answer is probably not, because Tarkin doesn't like them.
Exactly.
So like it just like small things like that, filling the gaps is really kind of cool, because it's like, I don't care about that stuff. They're just stormtroopers. But now you can tell someone, hey, they could be clones. They could not be clones.
And it's like logical. It's like one doesn't like them, but also they're more expensive. What do you say? They're like 4 times the cost of a recruit or something. So I really dig that. I like that again, having this type of thing can just explore this space and kind of tell as many stories as they want to, really, for as long as they want to, which is really cool. Similar to how Clone Wars is maybe a couple years of timeline, but they got a lot of stories out of it. And Riley Bob, I think, has a feeling that a lot of people have with Clone Wars, where he says, I really want to like Clone Wars. I watched the movie in the first season, couldn't get it going, but I hear good things. The movie is not great. It's not a great movie. And the first season, not great either. It takes a minute for it to like really. I'd even say you have to get to like season 3 before it really is good.
I think I noticed in episode or season 1, I want to say there was a Yoda story late in that season where I was like, okay, this is cool. It takes a while. Season 2, I think, was fine. I want to say it was either season 2 or 3 where the majority of it was Queen Amidala like doing Senate stuff, and I was like, I want to see fighting.
No, I agree, and it had this weird thing where it wasn't in chronological order, like it would jump around. It was kind of a confusing approach. There's like lists so you can watch it in chronological order, but it jumps around. But by the time season 3, season 4, it starts to just basically just having a set of maybe 3 or 4 episodes. It's like one story, and then you have another set of 3 episodes, it's another story. And I think once it gets into that rhythm, it's a really good show, and it has some really neat storylines that I really really love. Especially in the last season. I know you were kind of so on the last season, but I absolutely adored the last season. But season 4, 5, 6, 7 are fantastic, I think.
The season 7's a little tough because things are out of order, and the Ahsoka episodes sort of line up weird.
The middle
timeline wise,
weird. Yeah, the middle Ahsoka story is not great, but to me, I love the Bad Batch stuff. That storyline beginning, and then I really love the Siege of Mandalore.
Right. But yeah, I would say go chronological. I think I would rather go chronological.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know how that all plays out, or how it, like, if it's too jarring from like starting like a season 6 episode and then going to a season 1.
It's not that bad. But eventually it just goes in order anyway. It's really for the first couple seasons or so that you kind of do it that way. But anyway, Scotty says hasn't watched all of it yet, but will be interesting to see if can relate to
Enfys Nest crew. That'd be interesting. We don't know a lot about her character, other than from what we saw in Solo. It feels like Enfys Nest is kind of on the same trajectory as Saw Gerrera. Like they're both sort of like trying to like start their own rebellions.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. I kind of want this just to be like a show where these people can travel around the galaxy and catch up with people.
Yeah.
And where they're at. I don't necessarily need to see Obi-Wan. I don't think I need to see, we saw in Rebels, we saw a younger Princess Leia. I don't think we need to see her or Bail Organa or anything like that. But it would be cool to sort of see some of the real like kind of lesser characters. Younger Rebels, we already got that first minute of this episode. And then I can't think of anybody else other than like Tarkin from episode 4 that would be interesting to see, like a backstory, maybe the beginnings of a Mon Mothma
too.
Yeah. But I don't need to see Darth Vader in the series. I don't need to see. We saw Palpatine, but it was only the footage from the episode 3, him talking about the Galactic Empire. I don't need to see any big names.
Yeah. No, I agree, because the thing is, Rebels already kind of told the story of the birth of, or at least the forming and kind of the leading up to of the rebellion, right?
Right.
And Rogue One as well. Like, so that's been covered. Clone Wars covered really all of the meat in between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Or even up to through 3. And so this thing can kind of just be its own thing. And I agree. The wandering samurai type approach, Filoni loves that stuff. And I think he can do a really good job with it. In the trailer, we see Rex is going to be in this, so it'd be cool to catch up with him. It seems like in the episode, they're pretty much straight up saying they're going to go check in with Rex to see like what they should do or whatever. So that'll be interesting. And yeah, like, so Omega, you think definitely Force sensitive. It seems like that Kaminoan was like basically helped her escape.
Right.
So what play do you think is there? Do you trust, is Omega like not trustworthy, or is there somebody just kind of trying to make sure she's, I don't trust Omega personally. I feel like she's a plant for something more nefarious.
Well, that would be in line with Tarkin. I feel like Tarkin would have them go. I'm surprised Tarkin didn't program Crosshair
exactly
to reinfiltrate him.
Yep.
So the Crosshair situation could be a diversion from the actual threat, which is Omega. I'm trying to think if Omega is something else. we're 20 years away from New Hope.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. That's probably too young to be Mon Mothma. Also, the accent doesn't match up.
Was an adult. Yeah. She was
in episode 3.
In episode 3.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think of who she could be, grow up to be.
Well,
I don't.
We know Palpatine was cloning a lot. Like he has a granddaughter, Rey. So
everyone's saying it's Rey's mom.
Huh? Yeah, it's Rey's mom. Wouldn't that be a twist? But she seems very much of the Jango Fett lineage, right? She has an Australian accent. Makes sure she's all around Australia. Yeah. Or I don't know, it's Australian accent, but whatever it is. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think she has to be anybody. So that would be nice. I could see her being evil. I mean, who's to say they haven't planted some Order 66 type of programming into her? Mm-hmm. So maybe she's actually not evil, but Tarkin can unlock something halfway through the mission, and she's got to do something against her will. Yeah, that could happen. But I do like that it's an original character, and we don't know.
Yeah,
we don't know. Right. So she could survive. She could die. Who knows? So it'll actually be pretty cool to follow.
JMT 14. I thought Crosshair might have been playing along, and the chip tweaking didn't actually work. Interesting. I mean, I agree with you. It seems like the smarter move for Tarkin would have been to do a sleeper cell kind of thing, like just let him go back and then flip the switch if it's possible. Right. It wasn't possible, but that to me be the smarter play. And so that's where I do think Omega's not really trustworthy there, especially since
Crosshair.
Go ahead.
Crosshair already sort of seemed kind of against what the group was up to anyway. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. But still, the Omega character is a mystery. But excited to see how that turns out.
Right.
Let's see what other things want to check in on. No, yeah, I think we covered everything. I like seeing more of the Order 66.
Right.
And seeing how that played out. Yeah, I think that's everything. I really enjoyed the episode. Again, I agree that it takes a while to get into Clone Wars, and I didn't even start with Clone Wars. I started with Rebels because of that. Loved Rebels a lot. So then I was like, okay, I love Rebels, so I'm going to go do Clone Wars now. And it does take a while, but it was nice having the love and passion of Rebels to be like, okay, I want to see Ahsoka's story. And along the way, I loved the way they did Anakin. I loved the way they did Obi-Wan. It kind of let us have those adventures, to your point, that we didn't really get. I think one of the biggest mistakes, or maybe things to lament about the prequel trilogy is, when you, even as a kid, seeing Star Wars for the first time and hear Obi-Wan Kenobi talk about Anakin Skywalker being a great friend, like somebody that cared about the, Attack of the Clones. It's kind of the whiny Anakin, whiny teenager. And then Revenge of the Sith, there's barely any time and the dialogue's really wooden, and it doesn't sell that friendship. Right. And what I really love about Clone Wars is you have much more of the actual like friendly connection between Anakin and Obi-Wan that we didn't get in the films, which I really dig. And it makes it that much more impactful and makes me excited for this Obi-Wan series that is coming out, because maybe they'll explore it even more. So that to me is one of the aspects I love about Clone Wars. The other is, of course, Ahsoka. And then the other big part of Clone Wars that I love is the way they made us care about the clones and gave them, individual personalities. And
another thing that I like about Bad Batch is that, one of the complaints I hear online about the Clone Wars is that you feel sympathetic for the clones. So by the time episode 4 comes out, everybody's shooting them up. What I like about this is that it's the Order 66, the chip or the programming of the Order 66.
Yep.
Not just in that moment changes them to hate the Jedi, but that sort of is also controlling them from that point forward.
Yep.
So you're kind of lucky to have a Bad Batch. You're lucky to have a Captain Rex. And I think Cody, maybe, I don't know if it.
No, Cody turned on Obi-Wan. I don't think.
Oh, that's right. That happened in episode 3. But you know what I mean? But this show also let you know, like, hey, listen, Order 66 wasn't just a 10-minute long thing and they're back to, your friendly clones.
Yeah.
This is something that messed them up from here on out.
Yep.
And so that's what makes the Bad Batch interesting and more likable, is that they don't buy into the BS. And so you're like, okay, good. They can be good guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So you can definitely have good guy stormtroopers and bad guy stormtroopers, and anyone that the rebels kill we'll just assume are the bad guy stormtroopers.
No, absolutely. And I think, and they show it, like, even as they're back there in Camino, and the other clone troopers are being, jerks to that, it's like, whoa, what is going on? Like, what's the attitude everybody has? And so, yeah, it was fascinating to see that Order 66 wasn't just a flip the switch and then that was it. No, it systematically changed them from that point on. Yeah, I think that is huge. Jay Gervais, need more poorly costumed Islanders. I don't get the reference. Am I missing that? I don't know. Jake Scott D says, bring in some more IG-88 or 11 voice by Taika Waititi. Later bad guy in episode. I'm down for Taika Waititi being in anything all the time.
Right. They can do like the Gendy Tartakovsky the 2D animated Clone Wars series, which I love, where they had like, I think his name was Dirge.
Yeah.
He had like an army. He had an army of IG.
Yeah.
Like, bring those kind of people into the fold. Like, bring in some weird characters. But I don't need to see, like Yoda. I don't need to see Ahsoka. But let's bring in some other people into the fold. That a young Pershing from Mandalorian.
Yep.
Like stuff like that. Just kind of things that, we don't need to see the Bad Batch. Like, it doesn't have to be full on Forrest Gump. But I don't mind a couple of things being sprinkled in there. Like, I like to see where people are as opposed to the Bad Batch doing something to create someone's personality or something. That kind of stuff drives me nuts.
One of the criticisms of Mandalorian, especially in season 2, was he would just kind of go to a place, do a thing for a task, and then had to go to the next one and kind of meet a different. So, but you and I both love the Mandalorian.
Right.
But is that what you're saying? You don't want the Bad Batch to like just meet a new person every single week?
I'm fine with that, and I'm fine with them sort of crossing paths with other characters. What I don't like is, like, I don't want them to run into a teenage Han Solo and get in a firefight and Wrecker punches Han Solo and he gets the scar on his chin. Like, I don't need any of that BS. But I'm okay seeing where Tarkin is at this moment in time.
Yeah.
I'm cool seeing where Saw Gerrera is at this moment of time. They didn't. It wasn't like the Bad Batch got into a firefight and Saw Gerrera lost his ability to breathe normal. So now he needs the thing in his mouth. Like, I don't like. That's the kind of stuff I'm good with them sort of passing through the universe.
Sure.
I don't need them affecting everything so that we now understand why. This isn't like Santa Claus is coming to town, where they tell you how come he wears a red shirt, how come he goes down chimneys, how I don't need any of that stuff. Yeah. But I would like to kind of see, where people are in this 20-year span between episode 3 and episode 4, which I don't think we have a lot of stories for. Other, maybe there's books, comics, stuff like that. But as far as like moving pictures, stuff on screens, we don't really see a lot of between. I think Solo and Rogue One are really the only two. Oh, and then Rebels.
Yeah.
So, but even Rebels, Rebels, Solo, and Rogue One all take place like 5 years BBY or something. They take place right before the Battle of Yavin. So we still have at least 15 years of
absolutely
what's going on.
Exactly.
So that's the kind of stuff I'm looking forward to. One of my favorite parts of episode 3 is Order 66, and it's cool. This episode's called Aftermath, and it's cool to see the immediate effects of that.
Yeah,
and kind of also it'll be nice to see the long-term effects. I mean, I don't know how many. I guess there's something like 16 episodes this season. There's like a lot of them, which is fine. I'm not looking for multiple seasons. I would like one season that spans that whole 19 years.
Dang, I don't think that's gonna happen.
I need to start jumping through because I mean, you know, I don't want multiple seasons of the show.
It's gonna happen. I think it's at least 6 seasons in a movie.
I'll watch the movie.
Obi-Wan is set 10 years after Sith.
Right. But that's yet to be seen, but I'm looking forward to that. Any sort of thing that fills this gap of this 20 years, I love. I love.
Agreed. Would you be okay if the Obi-Wan series redid the Darth Maul Obi-Wan duel?
Sure. I thought the Darth Maul Obi-Wan duel in Rebels was awesome. I mean, if they're gonna do it, recreate it, cool. The only issue is they would have to change Ewan McGregor's face. What if they do that? What if instead of de-aging, they start morphing his face like digitally more towards Alec Guinness? That would be like if they can. I don't know. I feel like Marvel's de-aging is so good. I feel like Star Wars de-aging isn't quite there yet. But
no.
But well,
in fairness, I thought the Tarkin stuff was fine. It was the Leia one that looked weird. In
right.
I thought Tarkin looked. It was fine for me.
Yeah. I don't care. Like, I'm just happy to see the characters. So I don't like the CG aside. I'm fine with the inclusions. I understand like why they did it. Story wise, it's like, of course you need to see Leia get the plans. That's what this whole movie's about. It might not. Maybe down the road we'll get an upgrade of those things.
Yeah, it's like to me, the reveal of Luke. I thought some of the deep fakes looked better than the effects in The Mandalorian, even though it still was fine. But it's funny how good deep fakes look. I don't know why they just don't use that.
Right, but I mean, I'd be okay. I mean, as the ending of the series of Obi-Wan would be great to recreate that scene with Darth Maul because that scene is awesome. But then to the opposite of DH, to turn him into Alec Guinness just slightly, whether it's like through partial makeup or something, like I mean, really, let's fill this gap between, because we haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen Alden Ehrenreich into Harrison Ford. So I mean, yeah, that would be interesting. I'd be all for it. Hey, if it's the big thing they're working on, cool. Cool. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how I don't think they should retread it because I think it's perfect in Rebels.
It's great in Rebels, but I mean, I would say if you're gonna do it, it's got to be shot for shot.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Just so people that missed it in Rebels,
could
see it.
I don't think Ray Park's coming back, but you know that's a whole.
Listen,
whole nother
Star Wars is still following him on Instagram.
Oh, it is? Okay.
After that whole thing went down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you why I know that in a little bit. Before we end the show, I'll tell you why.
Okay. All right. Gotta stick around to the end.
But yeah, so I think that whole thing may have been sort of old news. I don't know. But
so Bad Batch, good. You only want this one season. I think it's gonna go beyond that. I think
it might go beyond that. I can see it going beyond.
I think it's at least 5 seasons.
Right. I feel like now, as opposed to whenever the original Clone Wars show came out in 2005 or something.
Yeah.
I'm sure the episodes are much easier to make, much cheaper to make. So I can see them just pumping these out. They're really, really pushing it. But I mean, I know it's the only Star Wars thing actually going on right now.
Yep.
But yeah, Disney's really pushing it. And, you know, they've got some shows coming up. And this one's something that can just be made and dropped into place. Like, so we have like a year round Star Wars cycle.
Well, exactly. To me, it's like, okay, the spring, summer can be your animated series, and then the fall is your live action series. I mean, really, all the live action ones they have planned, I mean, hell, it's probably going to be something every month, you know, kind of how Marvel's done this year. I don't know if that's by design or just because of the delays of the pandemic, but, you know, we had WandaVision and then Falcon Winter Soldier, and now we're getting Loki in a couple weeks.
And then right after that, I think it's Hawkeye.
I think you're right. If not the Black Widow movie, I think is coming out in theaters. Not too much.
Yeah, and that's slate of movies. Jeez Louise.
Ooh, did you watch that
trailer? It's like 3 or 4 Marvel movies coming out within the year.
I know.
Yeah, that trailer was awesome.
It was. Did you? I got a little misty in that one. A little bit.
I didn't get too misty, but it's so well done. It's the that Giacchino fanfare. It's so good. It gets you fired up.
It does, and it was that's the longest. Do you know if old Giacchino scored a longer one, or they just kind of loop it in some way?
I have no idea. I don't know.
You should ask him next time.
I'll ask him.
Did you do a longer one, or they just like cut it up and loop it? But yeah, I love the Marvel fanfare. And then is that the first time we've seen the Fantastic Four anywhere?
It was just the logo, right?
It's just the logo. Is that the first time
we've seen the logo? They did it.
Right.
Yeah, they showed it. That was the big reveal at that Investors Summit thing that we spent like 40 minutes.
You're right.
Jeez Louise, that thing. But yeah, that was sort of like the first kind of like, it's coming.
Yep. Definitely jazzed about that. I think out of everything, I'm most jazzed about finally the first family of Marvel. Getting the love. What If is after Loki. So
okay.
I thought What If's an animated series, I think, isn't it?
It is, but I think it's still, I wouldn't call it canon. It's What If. So but yeah, I think that's next. That's great. I always like the idea of What If.
Yeah, absolutely.
And since everyone's so familiar with the movies, it'll be cool to see what they do with those.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. I think let's wrap a bow on that. Bad Batch. Love it.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of all the live action Star Wars coming out.
Yeah.
I have a show coming out.
I know you have another
tackling the live action stars. Well, here's the thing. Invincible's over.
Invincible is over. Yes.
For now.
It got renewed for two extra seasons.
What did you think of that season finale, huh?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
Well, because Colleen was going to watch it, and then she's been out of town for a week. So.
All right. Well,
I will get to it. I promise.
Yeah, the thing we've been talking about happens in the finale.
The finale. Okay.
So anyway, that's over for the time being. Kaiju Pod's over for the time being. Dharma Large is going to come back in some form or another. I know at some point we're going to be talking about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy coming up on.
Where do you not have it? Oh, there it is. The live action.
Yeah.
Live action Star Wars.
So we're talking about all the live action series that are coming out. Your Book of Boba Fett's, Obi-Wan's, Mandalorian, everything live action. But in the time where there aren't shows, we'll be covering movies, trailers, documentaries, Kenner commercials, anything that's live action and Star Wars we'll have an episode based on. So
Okay.
do you remember the THX version of the trilogy, of the original trilogy? This bad boy? Ooh, I just uncovered a lot of dust. There's Leonard Maltin interviews on that.
Yes,
so we'll do
we'll
do a whole episode on those 3 Leonard Maltin interviews.
I love that.
Do you remember the Duel of the Fates music video?
Uh-huh.
We'll do an episode on that.
I love
holiday special, but our first episode drops on May 25th, aka Star Wars Day. And
the real Star Wars Day.
What's great about that is we'll be covering Solo.
Sorry. What's that?
We'll be covering Solo. Me and James have a huge affinity for the movie Solo. We love it. And so there you go. The page is brand new. I highly recommend anybody subscribe to it. tinyurl.com/liveactionsw. And because we only have a couple subscribers, we still need to get that custom URL.
All right, look at this. I'm going to give you a boom. And look at this. Hold on. Oh yeah, right there. I'm going to give it the old subscribe. Sweet. And I'm going to click the bell icon. Boom.
So this is going to be my first produced video podcast. It's going to be a full video podcast. We're going to do every episode on YouTube. And then you're also going to be able to, if you want to listen to the audio version, you can go to iTunes, which that feed is already set up. And yeah, we're going to be talking about Star Wars. I've never done a Star Wars podcast. I've always wanted to do a Star Wars podcast. I never had a reason to. Yeah. I don't read the comics. I don't read the books. I don't play the video games. I don't want to talk about the cartoons. So it's just live action. But we're going to dig deep. Like, do you know the boarding video from Star Tours?
Love the boarding.
We'll do an episode on that.
That's awesome.
We'll do both versions. We'll do the version with the lady with the two kind of loops on her head, and we'll do the one with the Alice and Janney robot. Like we'll cover both of those on that episode. So I'm excited for it. We will have an introductory video coming up sometime within the next couple days. It is yet to be recorded, but we're doing that tomorrow. And so you go to YouTube, subscribe to that. I'm going to introduce myself and my love of Star Wars and my history with Star Wars. James Hewlett, who is doing the podcast with me, he's going to be introducing himself, and we're going to talk about Star Wars for a little bit. And one of the things is I love Star Wars, and I cannot stand the toxicity with the Star Wars fans these days. So none of that garbage. None of that garbage. You won't hear me mention Kathleen Kennedy once. Kathleen Kennedy is great.
Hey, that'll get you a lot of clicks. It'll get you a lot of clicks.
But that's not what the show's about. So I'm very excited. James is very excited. James rearranged the back of his room just to have a better, different backdrop for the show. Me, I'm sticking with this old dumb background with my my bed and stuff. But check it out.
If you move to North Carolina, you get a sweet big room with a bunch of crap behind you. That's what the advantage.
Right. Does John from Toy Geeks live in North Carolina?
Yeah. He lives in not Raleigh, but lives in Sanford, which is a.
But I just watched a bit of last week's episode, and he was in yet another place with a wall of stuff behind him.
Yep. So. Well, his toy room he has an office, and then there's like an extended, a huge room that there's a door in his office that opens up to this huge room above his garage, and that's his toy room. So what I've tried to convince him to do is to have a bookshelf that you pull a book and then it opens up into the toy room. Wouldn't that be so cool?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
He hasn't done it yet, but it's not my toy room. That's my dream for his toy room. But no, really, really excited about this. Also loved hearing Dharmalars again. There's just something about you, Ben, and Ryan that's magical.
It's weird.
And it's just so freaking good.
Yeah, I don't know what it is when it's the three of us.
But it's fantastic. It's not even. I don't think you guys really talked about Lost at all, but it was amazing.
No, we didn't.
Freaking loved it.
And I don't know if we'll talk about Lost in the future unless there's new Lost. So
yeah.
But for the time being, we've discussed talking about the BBC show from the 80s, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If you haven't seen that show, it's only 6 episodes, and they're all fantastic and funny and good sci-fi. And then Ben has read the comic book Sweet Tooth.
That show's coming out. Yeah.
I'm just familiar with the book. I don't know much about it. So we may come at that show with 2 different perspectives, a person who's read it and a person who hasn't read it.
Yeah.
And it looks great.
Yeah.
So we might pick up really sort of like micro or mini series, just whatever we feel fits Darmlar's. And Sweet Tooth looks like it has a lot of theorying and and crackpotting and all that stuff. So look forward to that.
I freaking love it. Love it. The more the better, and the more the merrier. And it comes to Darmlar's. I did want to. I forgot to show this, but a new Lego set was unveiled today for the Bad Batch.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
And it looks freaking awesome. So
I'm just interested in those minifigs.
Hey, you showing them minifigs? Yeah, they look really good.
It's got all of them there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then a Gonk droid.
Yeah.
No Omega.
You have the newer looking Crosshair, right? Because isn't that the more Death Trooper looking one?
Yeah, as a y'all in black. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, it looks really cool. There's some rumblings within the fan community about they wish this set was already out for the May the 4th event because then you could use your Lego VIP points, but I think they're keeping it in terms of
they didn't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, and it kind of is a little spoiler because you have Crosshair as like the
out of costume
down. So, but excited for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Todd Smith for Toy Geeks. Can we discuss all the vintage collection releases for the Bad Batch? Oh, oops. Bet John gets it from Walmart for $15. Probably. But this set looks pretty darn cool. Even though I haven't bought a Lego set. The last Lego set I bought was the Ecto one, which is amazing. The big Ecto one.
Right.
That's the last Lego that I got.
Any word on Ghostbusters? Anything new?
Coming out in the fall. I mean, we had the mini puffs. That was the last big thing. And I think the last time we did a show, we looked at the Bill Murray reacting to the mini puffs, which was really fun. So it's
Hallmark ornament.
The Hallmark ornament.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little bit of a quiet time right now, which is fine. I think as we get closer to maybe July or whatever, we'll start to get more stuff for hopefully a new trailer soon, because the movie's already done. It's been done for a while now. So hopefully soon we'll start to get more stuff for that.
Got to check out that score. Let me get that score.
The score is going to be good.
I hope so. It can't be worse than 2.
It's possible. How about the score for Answer the Call? I don't even remember the score for Answer the Call.
There's nothing that really stood out. It sounded a little generic. I'm not even sure who did it.
Let's look it up. Here we go.
All right.
Let's see. It's a good point though. I don't who the hell did it? Score.
They're just gonna go to IMDb. Ghostbusters Answer the Call. What if they fit them in the movie in Afterlife? I think that would be great.
I hope so. This is just the soundtrack was just a bunch of
right. I recently got that score. I think I told you that already. I got the Ghostbusters score. Ghostbusters 1 on vinyl, the two disc set where it's like clear with the green slime swirl in it. God, I love that score.
Oh, Ghostbusters, the first score is amazing.
Right. And the second one is not. And I think I saw somewhere online that it was going to be released on vinyl for the first time.
It's been on vinyl. Mondo did one a few years ago.
The score?
Yeah, the score. I'm pretty
Huh.
sure. Yeah, they did the score already.
Huh.
I had it at one point, but then I sold it. I flipped it.
You didn't really care for it.
I mean, it was cool, but it was selling for like $150 or something like that. So I'm sorry if I bought something for $20 and it's selling for $150. I'm gonna flip it because they're gonna re-release it again at some point.
Right.
The artwork is okay. It didn't make me love it. And to me, I have a few versions of the first soundtrack and that just big Ghostbuster logo. It's really hard to beat that, in my opinion, as an album cover, but that's just me. That's just me.
All right, I'm looking this up because you can't find it.
Maybe here, I want to go Wikipedia.
Wikipedia?
Wikipedia. Wiki. Theodore Shapiro.
Okay. Yeah.
He
did oh boy. Tropic Thunder?
Old School.
Yeah.
On Came Polly, Starsky and Hutch, Dodgeball.
His score to Starsky and Hutch is great.
Tropic Thunder, Marley and Me. So a lot of the man, this is a pretty. How I not know this guy? He has a lot of scores, but I don't know if that's a criticism. Like I don't recall any of the themes from any of these movies.
Right. Comedy scores tend to get sort of not really.
But Elmer Bernstein, like I can sing all of those.
Stripe, Three Amigos.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, 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 dun.
So
God, that's a great score too.
You can do it.
Oh God, Meatballs.
Meatballs.
There's a score that needs to be put out. Like I think the soundtrack has like it's all songs. There's like I think 3 Elmer Bernstein tracks, and they have dialogue over it. I mean, I don't think he did a lot of music for the movie, but I need something. I love Meatballs.
No, Meatballs is great. Is that the first Ivan Reitman directed movie?
No, he did like Cannibal Girls.
Oh, you're right. But I mean like first big
movie. Right. That was his first big movie. And then that I've probably watched Meatballs way more than Ghostbusters. I love Meatballs. I'm not saying I like it more. I'm saying I've watched it more.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. No, I agree.
And then I grew up on Stripes. God, I love Stripes.
Same. I love Stripes. So many classic scenes. When you grow up with a dad like mine, like you just know all of those quotes.
Right. And I love like I wanted my own Winnebago. Mm-hmm. That thing was the coolest thing because when I was watching Stripes, it was on cable. Mm-hmm. And I was probably watching Mask at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so it was essentially a Mask vehicle.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised there hasn't really been any toys of the van from Stripes, the Winnebago. What do they call it again? The military, whatever crazy name they have for it. Jay Griffith says, not enough people talk about Meatballs. I agree. I
love Meatballs.
All of those, like Reitman, Raymond.
Those 3,
right? Meatballs, or
I don't think he was involved at all.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but those 3 movies are like
perfect. Is that the Reitman trilogy or the core trilogy?
The Reitman Rushmore,
Stripes, Ghostbusters. Yeah.
What would be the 4th one in the Rushmore?
Groundhog Day. Even though Reitman's not really involved with Groundhog Day.
Yeah. No. Just go Ghostbusters 2.
I mean, it's the only one. It's the only.
I love Ghostbusters 2. Right? Every time I watch Ghostbusters 2, I love it more and more. It's just that dang score. It really is. It's my only issue with it. I think Lewis is awesome. Janine is awesome. Okay.
If Ghostbusters 2 had Elmer Bernstein score and used the iconic themes from it,
right?
Do you think it would have fared better to the tests of time?
I think so. The Randy Edelman score relies so much on electronics, and he doesn't use electronics. I mean, Bernstein used electronics, but he used them to make electronic sounds within his orchestral score.
Yep.
Randy Edelman is using electronics to substitute strings.
Exactly.
To substitute horns. And so it just doesn't sound right. You need that full orchestra score, but then drop in that like Bernstein theremin. Like it's, he's using electronics to make spooky.
Wasn't it an Odenis Martenot? Not even a theremin, it was the Odenis Martenot, which is it's like similar to a theremin.
I always call everything like the steel, the steel pedal or whatever? Like I call everything guitar. What is the one that they use for good vibrations? I think
it's an Odenis Martenot as well.
Yeah, that's not a theremin. So, but it still has that musical saw quality to it.
It's essentially what it is. It's a theremin, but you have a keyboard so you can control the pitch more than a theremin.
Right. So, but I mean, the Black Cauldron and what is the Space Hunter in the Forbidden Zone, like those movies all have that Ghostbusters theremin sound, and it's like, oh, it's so awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it's so cool.
But just the opening of Ghostbusters, the like jaunty pizzicato of the synthesizer to imitate strings. I'm just like, oh no, don't no use real strings.
Yeah.
I use the electronic stuff for goofy electronic stuff.
And it's amazing how save for the actual like Ghostbusters theme that Elmer Bernstein did.
Right.
Take that out of it, but like it's timeless. And then you have the 89 Ghostbusters soundtrack and it sounds dated. It sounds so 1989.
Right.
And I think that
not in a good way. Not a cool retro way. It's a way that nobody ever did.
It feels, having existed and remembering very vividly 1989, it feels, even in 1989, I was like, ugh, this year is kind of lame. Like all of that feeling of 1989, even though 89 is a great year of film, it just has that feeling of just like, ugh.
But like 1989, you have like Elfman's Batman score. Yeah. You have Williams' Last Crusade score with that amazing Henry Jones theme. You have The Abyss, the Alan Silvestri score is amazing. That whole summer had all these amazing scores, and it's like, who's left? I guess Randy Edelman. And it just crushes your soul because it's like it changes the whole vibe of the movie. It makes it feel like a TV show.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
Yep.
It needs to be, if this is Ghostbusters, it needs to have a score.
Agreed. And you're right though. Out of all the classic movies of '89, summer of '89, one of the greatest movie summers of all time, that's the only score of the big blockbusters that's trash, right?
Right. And you know what I can say that's good about Ghostbusters Answer the Call is it's better not to notice the score than for it to stand out like a big heaping mess of garbage that's in your ears.
It's true.
I that's, Theodore Shapiro was like, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to be, if you don't notice me, cool. I'm definitely not going to like swing for the fences and do whatever that was. Have you heard it? What's crazy about Randy Edelman? So he did like Billy Madison, and a couple other comedies like that, and they all sound like that. Yet, if you watch Dragonheart, the Dragon Sean Connery movie, or if you watch Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, both directed by Rob Cohen, if you watch those movies, he did those scores, and they're like used in every trailer. They're fantastic scores. But when it comes to comedy, he writes comedy like a cartoon.
Yeah,
that's not how you write comedy scores. You make the score serious, which makes the situation seem even more crazy.
Exactly.
I think we talked about this on our first episode.
I think so, but it's true. It's still time. Scott D, do you like the end of Ghostbusters 2 anywhere near as much as the end of the first one? No. But
no,
doesn't mean it's still not a good movie. I think that's.
But what I do like about it is that they didn't try to Well, I mean, they did the Statue of Liberty, but they weren't trying to do like a 1-for-1. They didn't want to do it as a formula. So I like that the main sort of final conflict was just in a room versus the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of them trying to, save the whole city from a giant monster.
Yeah. It allowed it to have a kaiju. It wasn't a kaiju, but like a big thing.
Yeah.
But it was flipped. It was a positive thing versus a terrorizing thing.
Right. We got one in Answer the Call.
Mm-hmm.
The dude from the animated series with the bow tie.
It's the No Ghost logo, but I can't remember the guy's name, but he assumes the form of that guy. Yeah.
You think we're getting kaiju in Afterlife, or do you already know this stuff?
I don't. I'm trying to say spoiler free.
I feel like you have to, right?
What?
I feel like we have to.
Yeah, I'm going to try. It'd be interesting to see if the mini puffs form into a big Stay Puff, but I don't think it needs a kaiju. But
I like the mini puffs. I like the mini puffs where they are right now.
Exactly.
They don't need to expand past that scene.
Yeah.
But I mean, even in Evolution, they had the giant amoeba.
Mm-hmm.
The kaiju. Well, so
it's interesting because I really liked how did you play the video game? Do you know like the whole story of
I haven't.
Okay. Well, the big bad in that is Evo Shandor.
Right.
And so you kind of face off against him as this big crazy dude at the end. So it'd be interesting if they kind of replayed that a little bit because you have the Shandor Mining Company as part of that, and clear that's where he got the ore to build the Dana's apartment, which was the antenna that brought Gozer there. So it'd be interesting if Gozer came back, because Stay Puft is just Gozer assuming the form of a giant Stay Puft. So it'd be interesting if Gozer came back and assumed a different form of some sort.
I have an idea.
Okay.
J. Edgar Hoover. Boom. Make it happen. Right?
Would anyone get it though? Like, what?
Who cares? We would. It would be so stupid.
Rowan, thank you. Rowan was the name of the kaiju. Well, the guy who became the No Ghost ghost. But what's cool about Gozer is Gozer just assumes whatever form Gozer wants to assume, right? So assume the form of the lady, and then assume the form of Stay Puft. Gozer can be whatever it wants to be. So it could Jagger Hoover would be funny though.
We like okay. All right. I'm excited for it.
Oh, what if Gozer appears as Pee Wee Herman or Paul Reubens, because that's who was supposed to originally play Gozer in the earlier versions of the script and everything.
Be great. Like, yeah, if we see a Pee Wee Herman doll in the movie, we know it's coming.
And Paul Reubens can play characters that aren't Pee Wee Herman. Like, it'd just be a Paul Reubens. He plays weird characters really well.
Right.
So
a giant Pee Wee Herman.
I don't
bring it back.
Go ahead.
Bring it back to Ghostbusters 2 and Jason Reitman's appearance. Make it He-Man.
Skeletor, maybe.
Yeah.
Skeletor would be a little more menacing than He-Man, I think, personally. But
right, but I mean that's the fun of Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Is he's the least threatening thing you could think of.
True. Okay, so if we're going that route, the least threatening thing you can think of, He-Man doesn't fit that mold to me. It has to be something cute.
I know. I just like
Baby
that.
Yoda. It's a big Baby Yoda.
Oh, don't do that. They don't own. They don't. They're not. Sony's
I
not
know.
do that. But they do own Spider-Man.
Okay, so a big
Spider-Man.
It has to be
big Aunt May. Big Aunt May. Marissa Tomei. The Marissa Tomei version of Aunt May.
I'm down. I'm down for anything with Marissa Tomei. The end. Lola Pap says, when are we getting a second Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer? I don't know. Oh, I said July probably is my guess.
When's the movie slated to come out right now?
Fall, I think October something.
Okay, so Super Bowl's done. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I think July. That's my guess. All right.
Well, when's the next big Sony movie coming out? That'll probably be your thing.
It's all they push them all to the fall, right? Because it's No Time to Die, right? Is that the name next year?
Yeah, that's November. But if there's some Sony movie coming out or something big coming out, I can see them releasing a trailer in the summer. Maybe there's a deal between Disney and they could do it during Black Widow. Or what's the one after Black Widow? Eternals.
Yep,
is August.
Maybe Black Widow. That's probably a good call.
Yeah,
that's a good call.
A lot of cross.
Love Romance's form. Yeah, like Giant Floor. Rue the Day.
Yeah.
Space Jam 2. I have not gotten them. I've seen them. I've seen the Space Jam 2 toys. We'll talk about that more on Toy Geeks this week. All right, that is it. We are over time.
Yeah.
But as always, Ralph, enjoy spending time with you. I consider myself lucky that I get to spend time with you because you are a busy man in terms of podcast production. You can find all of it at Casino Skunk or casinoskunk.com. And if you have not partook in the Dharmalars podcast that Ralph does with Ben and Ryan, their most recent episode, I think, is a perfect example of what makes that show special. Definitely check it out. And we should be back next week. No anniversaries or crazy jobs wearing you down, so we should hopefully be back to a more regular cadence here on the show. Any other thoughts on your end, Ralph?
No, just do me the favor and go follow Live Action Star Wars on YouTube. Yes,
because you need 100 subscribers to get the URL or whatever. It's very important. It's very important. All right. Well, that will do it for this week's Screen Geeks. Maybe one day we'll get another song for Screen Geeks. But until then, we'll see you all next time. Hasta luego and goodbye.